Good morning. Welcome back. This is Mark from Mark Kelly Farms. We have a beautiful, glorious, spring-like day here in Nebraska. The lawn is starting to turn green again. The hills are starting to turn green. And I can't wait. It's going to be beautiful. So we're doing some outside work, as you saw from the last video. And the project I'm working on now, there used to be a red shed sitting right there. If you've seen any of other outside pictures we posted, was a big red shed there. And we got other ideas for that spot. We're going to actually utilize this grain bin that was here on the property, and we're going to make one of these. But that's not the project we're working on today. We're going to do something a little bit different today. We're coming up on the time to start getting ready for the garden. We're not going to plant anything serious in the garden here in Nebraska till around middle of May. So probably around April 1st or maybe a week sooner, we're going to start some seeds in what's going to be the greenhouse. We don't have a greenhouse now. There is an area in the basement that was used for starting seedlings, but it has to deal with grow lights and all that stuff, and I just rather do it outside. So we're going to take that shed that was over there, and I'll show you where we moved it. We utilized the tractor yesterday, and we moved it over here behind the shop. Reason being, it's going to get pretty much all day sun right here, and it's right here adjacent to the garden. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to turn this shed into a greenhouse. I've got the stuff ordered, which is some wiggle wire, if you've ever seen that stuff. Holds your plastic on. And then I also got the poly stuff coming to cover it with. But there's some stuff we got to do to this shed. I'm going to take the door off first, and we're going to have to strip all the siding and all the roofing off of this shed. It's got really good bones, is why we decided to use it. The outside doesn't look like much, but there's nice framework on the inside to start with. And eventually we're going to cut this floor out too, and we're going to have a gravel floor in here, but we already even got a bench started over here, so we can turn this into a greenhouse in pretty short order, and by April 1st we'll be able to start some seeds in here. So I'm going to get going on this project, and I'll check back with you every now and then and show you the progress. We got the first light into our new greenhouse. You can see structurally it's still pretty good. Took me all of about 20-25 minutes to take the front of this off. All this stuff that was up here was just purely decorative. It was just nailed to the plywood, came right off. You can see the rafters have what's called a bird's mouth cut in them. So we're going to be coming through later and cutting down and taking the tails off, because we're going to have to put 1x4s up here for the landscape plastic to come over the side. That's no big deal, but there's a million roofing nails in this plywood, so I'm hoping the roof goes as well as the front did, but we shall see. The plywood on the front of this structure is what, and actually all around the structure and even on the roof, is what gives it its structural stability. So once this plywood's taken off, everything's just kind of hanging loose, including all the rafters. So I'm probably going to come in with some 1x4s before we pull that roof off and nail those together so they're still structurally sound. And we'll put a diagonal brace in here so they're not moving around. We'll do that before we pull the plywood off, because then everything stays where it's supposed to be. And also the walls, the plywood creates, like I said, a perfect shear wall. It can't move, can't rack. But with this plywood taken off, this whole wall is going to be racking back and forth like this. So what we're going to do is what they do in housing. I'm going to come in with a 1x4 brace, start up at the corner, come down to the floor. We'll probably go both ways on the big walls, maybe just one way on the back wall, because once it's nailed, it can't go either direction. And I'm going to have to do a little one up front here, because there's not going to be any plywood on this thing anymore. But that'll hold it really nice and sturdy once we get those in. I think I'm going to run into town and get those now before I pull this plywood off and this thing starts moving around all over the place. We'll check back with you later. It's going well. Alright, we went to town, got some 1x4s, got all of our bracing in. This thing was getting pretty rickety without that bracing because all the plywood's gone, but you can't even budge it now. This thing's solid as a rock in all directions. This was going to be a short brace here, but I had the idea of just go ahead and run it all the way up to the rafter. So if for some reason I need that space for something, I could probably cut it right above that top plate, and this would probably be enough. But we got part of the roof off. We got our first purlin in. I just ran them long. I'll cut them off later. But I'm going to try to get the rest of this roof off tonight because we're supposed to have some wind. It's already kicking up a little bit, and I apologize if it's messing with the microphone. But if we get that roof off tonight, it won't act like a giant sail and tip this thing over. So we'll come back and talk to you in a bit. Alright, it's the end of day one, if we're not counting the moving day, which was yesterday. I got most of the demolition done. I'm glad we got the rest of the top off and that back side off, so if the wind comes up big tonight, this thing's not going to blow over us. The wind will just blow through it. But all in all, it wasn't too bad. Most of it was nails, so things just pried loose and came loose. This side here, which used to be the north side of it when it was over there, had a double thickness of plywood on it. I'm thinking the inside layer of plywood maybe was getting compromised, so they put another layer on top. Took me a minute to figure that out because it wasn't just prying out like everything else. It was actually screwed on. So we'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to try to button most of this up. We got some weather coming in next Sunday and Monday right now. Supposed to maybe snow next Sunday. But if the landscape, or not the landscape, but the greenhouse, the vinyl doesn't come in time and we can get this on, it'll just have to snow on it. Oh well. Alright, see you next time. Hey, we're back on the greenhouse project. We had some weather over the last week or so. We had to button it back up a little bit to keep it dry. I just threw some of the old plywood around the outside real quick, just threw a couple screws in it. I left the back wall on and had that plywood on the front. And just threw a big old tarp over the top and threw a ratchet strap around it to hold it on. So it stayed pretty dry, and the weather forecast shows that we're going to have 4 or 5 semi-dry days here coming up. So I got all of the stuff I need to finish this thing off. The greenhouse plastic came in, the wiggle wire came in. I just went and got a couple 2x12s or 4 2x12s to go around the bottom skirt of this thing. So we're going to get back on it. We'll show you the next update. I got a storm door to put on here too, which we're probably going to have to adjust the framing on the front. So check back with me later. Progress report on the greenhouse. We had it covered up again last night, but yesterday we made a lot of good progress. Got all the purlins on up top. We've got the skirting on, the 2x12 pressure treat skirting. We got the door mounted solid. So now today Kelly's home on her Friday day off, and we're going to get the 2 vents in, and we're going to get a window in the back, and then we can start putting the wiggle wire channel on. Excuse me, rented lips today. But it's really coming together. We're looking forward to getting this thing going. I had to raise the door frame. The door in the shed was not a standard height, of course, so we had to reframe a little bit higher to make this storm door work. It was 80 inches tall. So we're going to get on it and we'll check back with you later. Beautiful day. Hey folks, welcome back to the greenhouse project. Been having a little weather, so we had it covered up again. So we had to kind of come to a standstill. The other day we got all the wiggle wire channel put on, and if you've never used that before, we'll show you how to do that. We got the 2x12s put around the bottom if we hadn't done that in the previous video. We got the vents installed up top, front and back, and the window. We brought in some shelving that we'd picked up off of Facebook Marketplace. These are actually wire panels for something else, but they're 2 foot and they're going to make some great shelving in here. So it's a little windy right now. Kelly's home this weekend, so we're getting this stuff done. Since the wind is blowing, we're going to work on the shelving, and maybe we'll get a little break in the wind later where we can put the plastic on and we can show you how that wiggle wire works. But we're going to work on the shelving and we'll see you back later. Well, we got a lot done, but this darn wind will not slow down long enough to do the plastic. But we got all the shelving done. We'll go in here where Miss Kelly is. Look at all that beautiful shelving. Plenty of room. Dog already likes it too, huh, Brandy? Good greenhouse? Yeah? So we found these 2 foot panels a while back, and they worked out perfect. There's 3 different sizes. So made 2 shelves all the way around, left us a little space here in the corner. But it's starting to look like a greenhouse. All we need now is plastic and we're in business. How do you think of it, babe?
Cool so far.
Yeah, I think it's going to work great. All right, we'll see you after we put the plastic on this thing. Well, we finally got the plastic on the greenhouse. We did have to fight the wind a little bit today. And I told you I'd show you how this wiggle wire stuff works, so I'm on the last piece here. So you see these channels that we've installed, and then you just take the wire and you bend it and put it in the channel. Just like that. And just go down the line and it holds that plastic in real tight. So I'll finish that last one all the way down that hip board and we'll be done. Boy, it's toasty warm in here. It's going to be great for growing plants. It's that time of year, right around April 1st, so we're going to start getting some plants going for transplant in the garden around mid-May. Pretty well wrapped up. The only thing we got left is I'm going to make some vent covers for these vents that are a little bit bigger than the opening, and I have some automatic openers for those, so when it gets too warm in here, the vents will open by themselves, and if we're not here, it's not going to kill all of our plants. So I really like how it came together. We just took an old shed, we moved it from where it used to be. Took all the old siding and roofing off, braced it up real nice so it didn't wobble around, and got the diagonal braces in it. The plastic's holding up really good. Real happy with the materials that we bought. Glad this project is complete. It was a fun project and we needed it. It's April 1st coming up. We got to start some plants. So till next time, this is Mark, and that's Kelly over there, and the Wonder Dog, Brandy. We'll see you next time. Come on back and see us on Mark Kelly Farm.